Eternal God, a mystery surrounds my life. What came before it and what lies beyond it are shrouded in darkness. But in the darkness is your presence, and in the mystery your love. No mind can grasp the splendor of your being, no tongue express the majesty of your works. Yet there are times when we sense a reality that is beyond our mortal sight. May this Sabbath be such a time for us. Help us to hear your voice, to find your image in our souls, and to be at peace. Elohai neshama shenatzata bi tehorai. Let's read together. My God, the soul you have given me is pure. For you have created and formed it and breathed it into me, and you stained it within me. So long as there is a soul within me, I will give thanks to you, Eternal One, my God, and God of my ancestors, sovereign of all worlds, guide of every human soul. We praise you, O God, in whose hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. And please join me still with the next section from Pesukei de Zimra. Baruch she'amar v'haya ba'olam, Baruch hu, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, ha'mehulal b'fi amo, משובח ומפואר בלשון חסידיו ועבדיו, בשבחות ובזמירות, נגדלך ונמליכך, מלכנו יחיד חי העולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך מהולל בתשבחות. כל כוכבי בוקר לך ישירו, כי זוהריהם ממך יזהירו, ובני אלוהים עומדים על משמרות ליל ויום, שם נהדר ידירו, וכחל קדושים קיבלו מהם, וכל שחר לשחר ביתך יאירו. The heavens declare the glory of God.
The sky gave God's handiwork.
Day unto day utter speech.
Night unto night teaches knowledge.
Yet there is no speech, there are no words.
Not a sound of them is heard.
And still their call goes out to all the earth.
And their message to the end of the world.
God's teaching is perfect.
Reviving the soul.
God's word is unfailing.
Making wise simple.
God's precepts are right.
Delighting mind.
God's commandments are clear.
Enlightening the eyes.
God's doctrine is pure.
Enduring forever.
God's guidance is true.
And altogether just.
They are more to be desired than gold, than any amount of fine gold.
Sweeter than honey from the honeycomb.
Your servant pays heed to them.
On keeping them much depends.
Who is aware of errors?
Let me therefore of unconscious sins.
Hold back your servant also from willful sins.
Let them not control me.
Then I shall be blameless. Yhiu leratzon imrei fi v'hegion livi lefanecha, Adonai tzuri v'go alei.
Ani besira b'shiri me'od, ki elecha nafshi tamo, nafshi hinda b'tzei yadecha, gadal kol rasonecha. Mirei nami b'chodrecha,
ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ. כי לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, שיר ושבחה, הלל וזמרה, ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בשירי זמרה. Let's read together on page 136. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvorei choshech, oseh shalom uvorei et hakol, hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha berachamim, uvetuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh bereshit. Ma rabu ma'aseha Adonai, kulam b'chochma asita, Mal'ah ha'aretz kinyanecha, titbarach Adonai Eloheinu, al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, ve'al me'orei or she'asita, yifa'arucha serah. Baruch atah Adonai, yoser ha'morot. And still together. Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching, make us faithful to your commandments, and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. We praise you, O God. In love you have called your people Israel to serve you. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael ושמתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לתותבות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובשעריך. And enduring are these words, now and forever. True it is, Eternal One, that you are our sovereign God and Redeemer, as you are the God and Redeemer of our ancestors. You are our Maker, the rock of our salvation. We have known you always as our helper and our liberator. There is no God but you. Truly you are first and you are last. We have no Redeemer but you. You redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. Then, with great joy, Moses, Miriam, and all Israel together sang to you this song. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu V'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevii Geulah L'bnei Bneihem, L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, V'chayei Meitim atah Rav L'Moshiach, Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGeshem, Mazriach HaShemesh U'Morid HaTal, V'chamchel Chaim V'Chesed, V'chayei Meitim B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mekayem Emunaso Yishenei Afar. Mihi Chamocha Ba'al Gevurot, U'mi Donelach, Melech Mimit U'Mechayem U'Matzliach Yeshua, V'Ne'eman Atah L'Hachayim Baruch atah Adonai, Chayei hametim. נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאיך. תופיע ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך.
ימלוך אדוני לעולם באוהל ציון לדור ודור הללויה.
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נכחיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. And let's read together at the foot of page 142. You inspired our ancestors to hallow this day for your service. When upon its coming we pause to contemplate our life, we learn anew that we do not live by bread alone, but also by the spiritual nourishment we receive when we open ourselves to your influence. We thank you for the Sabbath day and for the opportunity it offers to enhance the quality of our lives. We thank you for its joy and for its peace. May our worship help us to take into our hearts its message of holiness and consecrate all our days by devotion to what is true, beautiful, and good. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך כל קוראי עולם, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך כל קוראי עולם. your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments, and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, eternal one, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its feasts. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath. רצה אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל, ותפילתם באהבה תקבל. ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל עמך. ברוך אתה אדוני, שאותך עבדך ויראה נעבוד. I'd like to insert here a prayer for healing. Are there any names that anyone would like to mention of people that you're thinking of in particular at this time?
Susan Schonfield, my sister.
Talk about my mother, Phyllis.
One of my work colleagues, Star. And Tyler Wald.
Eternal God, we thank you for the gift of life and for the healing powers that you have implanted within your creatures. Sustain, we pray, our loved ones through this time of illness. Grant them courage and strength to endure pain and weakness. Teach us how best to help them by our love and care for them and by our own composure. May they and all who are ill know that you are with them, comforting them and reinforcing their will to get well. May their afflictions soon be ended, and may they return in health to family and friends. יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, שתשלח מהרה רפואה שלמה, רפואת הנפש ורפואת הגוף, לאהובינו בתוך שאר החולים. ברוך אתה אדוני, רופא החולים. May it be your will, eternal one, our God and God of our ancestors, speedily to grant a perfect healing of body and mind to our loved ones and to all who are sick. We praise you, O God, the source of healing.
Amen.
Amen. And back to the middle of page 144. Together, Modi.
Melech Nulach,
שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו לעולם ועד. צור חיינו מגן נפשנו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. נודה לך ונספר תפילתך, על חיינו המסורים בידיך, ועל נשמותינו הפקודות לך, ועל ניסיך שבכל יום עמנו, ועל נפלאותיך וטובותיך שבכל עת, ערב ובוקר וצהריים. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך ולך נאה להודות. Grant peace, welfare and blessing, grace, love and mercy to us and to all Israel your people. As a loving parent, bless us with the light of your presence. For by the light of your presence, eternal God, you have revealed to us the law of life, a love of kindness and righteousness, blessing and mercy, life and peace. For it is good in your sight that your people Israel and all peoples be blessed at all times with your gift of peace. Praise you, O God, who source of peace. We take a few moments now for silent prayer. 481. Can I invite our ark opener to come on up? There is none like you, Eternal One, among the gods people worship, and there are no deeds like yours. Your sovereignty is everlasting, your reign endures from age to age. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Gadlu l'Adonai iti unuromama shemo yachdav. Torah portion this week is Vayishlach, from Genesis chapter 32, verse 4 through to 36, verse 43. Vayishlach means, and he sent, and it refers to Jacob sending messengers to his brother Esau before their meeting after 20 years of separation. The Torah tells us of Jacob's fears, of his division of his family into two camps, and of his wrestling with a man who tells Jacob his name will be changed to Israel. Following that struggle, Jacob and Esau meet in a very moving and emotional scene, which actually says so much for the character of Esau, I have to say. And then they part peacefully, each going a separate way. After Jacob and his family settle in Shechem, Dinah, the daughter of Leah and Jacob, is raped by Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite. Jacob's sons take revenge by murdering all the males of Shechem and plundering the city. Jacob is critical of his sons for their actions, as you can imagine. Jacob's beloved Rachel dies giving birth to Benjamin, and she's buried near Bethlehem. Isaac dies and is buried in Hebron near Abraham and Sarah, and the Torah portion concludes with the genealogy of Jacob and Esau. So it's a lot going on, as you can hear. I'm going to be reading from chapter 32, verses 23 to 33. And you'll find that in the Plaut on page 218, in the Sonsino on page 199, and in the JPS Tanakh on page 52. Would anyone like to do the Torah blessing? Yeah? Yes, of course.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach
Le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen.
ויקום בלילה הוא, ויקח את שתי נשיו ואת שתי שפחותיו, ואת 11 ילדיו, ויעבור את מעבר יבוק. ויקחם ויעבירם את הנחל, ויעבר את אשר לו. ויוותר יעקב לבדו, ויאבק איש עמו עד עלות השחר. וירא כי לא יכול לו, ויגע בכף ירחו, ותקע כף ירך יעקב, והיאבקו עמו. ויאמר, שלחני כי עולה השחר, ויאמר, לא אשלחך, כי אם ברכתני. ויאמר אליו, מה שמך? ויאמר, יעקב. ויאמר, לא יעקב יאמר עוד שמך, כי אם ישראל. כי שרית עם אלוהים ועם אנשים, ותוטל. וישאל יעקב, ויאמר, הגידה נא שמך. ויאמר, למה זה תשאל לשמי? ויברך אותו שם. ויקרא יעקב שם המקום פניאל, כי ראיתי אלוהים פנים אל פנים, ותנצל נפשי. ויזרח לו השמש כאשר עבר את פנואל, והוא צולע על ירחו. על כן לא יאכלו בני ישראל את גיד הנשה אשר על כף הירך עד היום הזה, כי נגע בכף ירך יעקב בגיד הנשה. And so this is after he had, Jacob had separated all of his possessions and crossed them all over the river, and then he went back over the river and he remains alone. And so he got up on that night and he took his 2 wives and his 2 maidservants and everything and his 11 children, and he crossed over the river Jabbok. And he took them and he crossed them over the river, and in this way he crossed over everything that was his. And he and Jacob remained alone. And a man mysteriously appears and struggles or wrestles with him until the break of dawn. And when he, the man, saw that he couldn't prevail against Jacob, he touched him on the socket of his hip, and he wrenched or strained Jacob's hip socket while he was struggling with him. And he said, "Let me go, for the dawn is breaking." And the rabbis have asked, why did he say, "I have to go because the dawn is breaking"? And one of their answers is that he's one of the angels that goes to sing in the dawn chorus. So he has to get over to the choir. And so Jacob said, "I will not let you go until you bless me." And he said to him, the man said to him, "What is your name?" And he replied, "Jacob." And the man said, "No longer shall your name be called Jacob, but rather Israel, Yisrael, for you have struggled, Sarita, you have struggled with God and with human beings, and you have prevailed." And Jacob asked and said, "Please, tell me your name." And the man replied, "Why do you ask me my name?" And then he blessed him there. What does your translation say about "and he blessed him there"?
Took leave of him.
Took leave of him. What does it say in the Sonsino? So it does say he blessed him. I don't know why JPS has it. He took leave of him there, because he asked him to bless him, and it's very clear in the text that he does bless him there. And Jacob called the name of that place Peniel, for he said, "I have seen God face to face." And Peniel, thank you very much, Kevin, means the face of God. So So he said, I have seen God face to face, and my life has been saved. And the sun shone on him when he passed by Penuel, and he was limping on his leg. And it is for this reason that the children of Israel do not eat the thigh muscle, which is attached to the hip socket, to this day. For he touched Jacob's hip socket at the thigh muscle.
Oh, okay. You're feeling the pain.
In fact, it's according to traditional Judaism, it is the sciatic nerve.
It's
That is
my
the one that has to be
sciatic
removed.
nerve.
That's very appropriate.
My name isn't Jacob. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu.
Amen. That's very good. Would you please rise? Please be seated. So in a moment, Stephen is going to be reading our Haftarah portion, which is from Jeremiah chapter 31, verses 1 to 17. I'm afraid you'll only find it in the JPS Tanakh. It's not the traditional Torah portion for this Shabbat, and it's in fact the Haftarah portion. It's the Haftarah portion for the second day of Rosh Hashanah, and the High Holidays Haftarah don't appear in those two books. If you have the JPS Tanakh, it's on page 835. So Jeremiah began his prophetic ministry when Josiah was king of Judah in the last quarter of the 7th century BCE. 100 years earlier, the northern kingdom of Israel, called Ephraim by Jeremiah, had been destroyed by Assyria and its inhabitants scattered. Now it was the Babylonians who threatened to overrun the southern kingdom of Judah. In this Haftarah reading, the prophet consoles his people and reassures them that someday the exiles will return and the former two nations will become one again. God's expressions of love for Israel and promises to restore the nation to its homeland dominate the Haftarah. In one image, God is characterized as a father to Israel, and our matriarch Rachel is depicted weeping for her children. Just as Jacob returns home in our Torah portion, the Haftarah contains God's promises to return the people to their homeland. There is a reference to Jacob being redeemed from one too strong for him, which reminds us of Jacob's struggle with a mysterious man in our Torah portion, and the image of Rachel weeping for her children is linked to the death of Rachel in our parashah as she gives birth to Benjamin. And the two nations coming together again is reminiscent of the reunion of Jacob and Esau. The Haftarah ends with a message of hope for the people's future and assurance that God will return them to their country and homes and turn their mourning to joy.
Thank you. Just one thing to add there, which is that there's a reference there to a verse which is actually read out in our Yom Kippur additional service in the section on remembering the martyrs towards the end of this particular Haftarah. As Rachel has mentioned, it can be found on page 8, I think it's 835. 835 of the JPS Tanakh. And I'm reading it in memory of my Uncle Cyril, who is my mother's eldest brother, whose yahrzeit is commemorated today, and my sister Mandy, who passed away in March. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bacha b'ni v'ivtomim, v'ratzah b'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah, u'v'moshe avdo, u'v'Yisrael amo, u'v'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. Thus said the Lord, the people escaped from the sword, found favour in the wilderness. When Israel was marching homeward, the Lord revealed himself to me of old. Eternal love I conceived for you then. Therefore I continue my grace to you. I will build you firmly again, O maiden Israel. Again you shall take up your timbrels and go forth to the rhythm of the dancers. Again you shall plant vineyards on the hills of Samaria. Men shall plant and live to enjoy them. For the day is coming when watchmen shall proclaim on the heights of Ephraim, come, let us go up to Zion, to the Lord your God. For thus said the Lord, cry out in joy for Jacob, shout at the crossroads of the nations, sing aloud in praise and say, save, O Lord, your people, the remnant of Israel. I will bring them in from the northland, gather them from the ends of the earth, the blind and the lame among them, those with child and those in labour. In a vast throng they shall return here. They shall come with weeping, and with compassion will I guide them. I will lead them to streams of water, by a level road where they will not stumble. For I am ever a father to Israel. Ephraim is my firstborn. Hear the word of the Lord, O nations, and tell it in the isles afar. Say, he who scattered Israel will gather them, and will guard them as a shepherd his flock. For the Lord will ransom Jacob, redeem him from one too strong for him. They shall come and shout on the heights of Zion, radiant over the bounty of the Lord, over new grain and wine and oil, and over sheep and cattle. They shall fare like a watered garden, they shall never languish again. Then shall maidens dance gaily, young men and old alike. I will turn their mourning to joy, I will comfort them and cheer them in their grief. I will give the priests their fill of fatness, and my people shall enjoy full bounty, declares the Lord. Thus said the Lord, and this is the bit from the Yom Kippur service. A cry is heard in Ramah, wailing, bitter weeping, Rachel weeping for her children. She refuses to be comforted for her children who are gone. Thus said the Lord, restrain your voice from weeping, your eyes from shedding tears, for there is a reward for your labour, declares the Lord. They shall return from the enemy's land, and there is hope for your future, declares the Lord. Your children shall return to their country. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol haolamin, tzaddik v'kol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer v'oseh, ha'medaber u'makayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek. Al ha'torah v'al ha'avodah, v'al ha'nvi'im, v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu, Adonai Eloheinu, לקדושה ולמלוכה, לכבוד ולתפארת, על הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת.
So in the middle of page 484, is there anyone who would like to read this first prayer for those who govern our country? Obviously, a rather important person at the out. Would you read that for us? Thank you very much.
Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for our sovereign lady, Queen Elizabeth, and all the royal family, for those who govern our country, and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity.
Let's all say Amen. And let's read together the prayer for the community. Eternal God, as you blessed our ancestors in generations past, bless now this congregation, its leaders and its members, and all who enter this synagogue to meet, to study and to pray. Comfort the sorrowing hearts among us, and heal those in anxiety or pain. May we all find here through community and friendship, renewal of purpose and hope, a deeper understanding of our heritage, and a sense of your abiding presence. Bless all congregations of the house of Israel throughout the world. Let those who live under oppressive rules soon be freed, and may we all unite to witness to your truth and do your will. Would anyone like to read the prayer for the state of Israel?
Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbours, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision that out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem.
Amen. Thank you. And in the middle of page 486. Yehalalu et Shem Adonai ki niskav shemo levado. God's teaching is perfect.
Reviving the soul.
God's word is unfailing.
Making wise and simple.
God's precepts are right.
Delighting the mind.
God's commandments are clear.
Enlightening the eyes.
God's doctrine is pure.
Enduring forever.
God's guidance is true.
And altogether just.
Amen.
So what a time of turmoil our country has been experiencing recently. For the last 2.5 years, we've had a government led by a minority Conservative Party without the numbers to effect their desired changes. Yesterday's election result has handed them a huge majority, and so the political landscape shifts yet again. And it looks as though Brexit Part 1 will now happen very soon. The country has been and remains deeply divided, and it will require a huge amount of healing. I think it might be fair to say that, and not just in the UK, we are in the midst of a long, dark political night, and many of us are unsure of what will lie ahead when the day dawns. Vayishlach, our Torah portion this morning, might offer us some insight into the hope, healing and blessing that can be wrested from a long, dark night of pain and struggle. First of all, I'd like to remind you of the ancient Greek legend that tells of a woman who came down to the river Styx, where Charon, the gentle ferryman, stood ready to take her to the region of the departed spirits. Charon, the ferryman, reminded her that it was her privilege to drink of the waters of Lethe, and that if she did so, she would completely forget all that she was leaving behind. Eagerly, she said, "I will be able to forget how I have suffered." To which Charon responded, "Yes, but remember, you will also forget how you have rejoiced." And then the woman said, "I'll be able to forget my failures." And the old ferryman added, "And also you will forget your victories." Again the woman said, "I will be able to forget how I have been hurt." "You will also forget," countered Charon, "how you have been loved." The woman then paused to think the whole matter over, and the story concludes by telling us that she did not drink the waters of Lethe, preferring to hold on to the memory even of her suffering and her sorrow, rather than surrender the remembrance of life's joys and loves. No one is immune from suffering and hurt. Even our matriarchs and patriarchs, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob, Leah and Rachel, chosen by God to fulfill the divine purpose in the Bible, must know sorrow and suffering. Often, wisdom and insight are gained only after wrestling with adversity. The author of Psalm 84 wrote, "They passed through a valley of tears and convert it into a life-giving fountain." Both pain and joy are woven into the narrative of our lives, and it is our task and challenge to integrate, process, and ultimately make meaning and purpose from the sum total of our experiences to the best that we are able. So this morning I'd like to share with you a story told by an American doctor and one of my favourite writers, Rachel Naomi Reman. Rachel Reman is, as I said, she's a doctor and one of the earliest pioneers in the mind-body health field. One of the first to develop a psychological approach to people with life-threatening illnesses and to educate doctors accordingly. She's written 2 books, Kitchen Table Wisdom and My Grandfather's Blessings. Have you read? Has anyone heard anything? Seen all right, just wonderful. They're both books of stories. The first, stories of some of the cancer patients who came to her for treatment. The second, as the title suggests, a story she heard as a small child from her grandfather. They are stories of strength, refuge, and belonging, stories that heal. This one is from her second book, and in it her grandfather extracts his own insights from the section of this week's Torah portion that we have read, Jacob's struggle with a mysterious man on the banks of the river Jabbok. And so she tells it like this. Sometimes a wound is the place where we encounter life for the first time, where we come to know its power and its ways. Wounded, we may find a wisdom that will enable us to live better than any knowledge, and glimpse a view of ourselves and of life that is both true and unexpected. Almost the last story that my grandfather told me was about a man called Jacob who had been attacked in the night as he slept alone by the bank of a river. He had been travelling And when he stopped to make his meal and settle down to sleep, the place had seemed safe enough, but it was not so. He awakened to find himself gripped by muscular arms and pinned to the ground. It was so dark that he could not see his enemy, but he could feel his power. Gathering all his strength, he began to struggle to be free. "Was it a nightmare, Grandpa?" I asked hopefully. I often suffered from nightmares back then and had to sleep with a nightlight on. I moved closer to my grandfather and took his hand. "No, Neshamale," he said. "It was quite real, but it happened a long time ago. Jacob could hear his attacker's breath. He could feel the cloth of his garments. He could even smell him. Jacob was a very strong man, but even using all of his strength, he could not free himself, and he couldn't pin his enemy down either. They were evenly matched, and they rolled on the ground and struggled fiercely." "How long did they struggle, Grandpa?" I asked with some anxiety. "A long, long time, Neshamale," he replied. "But the darkness does not last forever. Eventually it was dawn, and as the light came, Jacob saw that he'd been wrestling with an angel. I was astonished. "A real angel, Grandpa," I said, "with wings?" I don't know if he had wings in Neshamale, but he was definitely an angel, he told me. With the coming of the light, the angel let go of Jacob and tried to leave, but Jacob held him fast. "Let me go," the angel told Jacob. "The light has come." But Jacob said, I will not let you go until you bless me." The angel struggled hard, for he badly wanted to escape, but Jacob held him close. And so the angel gave him his blessing. I was very relieved. "Did he leave then, Grandpa? Is that the end?" I asked. "Yes," my grandfather said, "but Jacob's leg was hurt in the struggle. Before the angel left, he touched him on the place where he was hurt. This was something I could understand. Often my mother did this too. To help it get better, Grandpa?" I asked. But my grandfather shook his head. "I do not think so, Neshamale. He touched it to remind Jacob of it. Jacob carried it all the rest of his life. It was his place of remembering." I was very puzzled by this story, she concludes here. How could it be that one might confuse an angel with an enemy? But Grandfather said this was the sort of thing that happened all the time. Even so, he told me, it's not the most important part of the story. The most important part of the story is that everything has its blessing. What a wise man Rachel's grandfather must have been. Not everything is a blessing, as I'm sure he would have agreed. Rachel Naomi Riemann herself suffers from a chronic lifelong disease. I'm certain she would not say that her disease is a blessing, but how she has coped with it, and as a result of it, transformed her life so as to bring comfort and healing to so many people. That is a blessing. The loss of dear ones in our family or friends is most certainly, most decidedly not a blessing. We would at those times wish to be able to change things, to reverse the process, to hold on to our loved ones, but it cannot be. What can become a blessing is how we respond to the suffering that life throws at us. If, for example, out of our sorrow, we can help others to cope with theirs, that becomes a blessing. If we become closer to those we love, to our family and our friends, that is a blessing. If, like Jacob, we can ultimately wrestle meaning and purpose from our pain, that is a blessing. The story of Jacob and the angel is a puzzling story about the nature of blessings and the nature of enemies, concludes Dr. Riemann. How tempting to let the enemy go and flee, to put the struggle behind you as quickly as possible and get on with your life. Life might be easier then, but far less genuine. Perhaps the wisdom lies in engaging the life you have been given as fully and courageously as possible, and not letting go until you find the unknown blessing that is in everything. Well, the story of Jacob and his fight with the man can be interpreted as Jacob's internal fight with himself, with the demons of his past, including his deceptions of his brother Esau and his father Isaac. After 20 years away from home, Jacob is anticipating the meeting with his brother, who, when he left, was so angry with him that he wanted to kill him. Jacob must now confront his own past behaviour and put things right with Esau in order to secure his future. A hint of the blessing that will come through his reconciliation, both with himself and with his brother, is given when the man he was fighting announces that Jacob will soon be given a new name, Israel, because he had struggled with people and with God, perhaps with himself too, and prevailed. From being Jacob the heel, he becomes Yisrael, the father of a nation. Jacob doesn't come through the encounter unscathed. He limps away from it to meet his brother. Every struggle leaves its mark. It was Ernest Hemingway who commented, "The world breaks everyone, and afterwards many are strong in the broken places." It does feel as though something has broken in our political world, and it is our hope that out of that brokenness will come, eventually, strength, healing and blessing. This can only become reality if we each in our own way wrestle with the challenges that come in our path and determine to gain insight and blessing from them. May God grant us the courage, perseverance and vision we need for this task, and may God bring healing to our world. Amen. So we turn now to the concluding part of our service, to the Aleinu on page 520. Aleinu Shabbat Adon Hakol, V'teikula Yosef Bereshit, Asher Samchalkenu Liachei et Shomo, V'gor Aleinu Namlik Malchuto, V'amachnu Korim, U'mishtachalim U'modim, Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Notei Shamayim v'Yosed Haaretz, U'moshav Yekaro b'Shamayim Ima'ah, Ushkinatu zo, B'gofei Meromim, U'Eloheinu Einod, Emes Malkeinu Efesu Ratzon, Kakasu B'Toratzon, V'yadata hayom, V'yashevota Eloah.
victory cease forever. Help us to perfect the world by bringing it under your unchallenged rule. When all will invoke your name, relinquish evil, and turn to you alone. May all who dwell on earth come to know that to you every knee must bend and every tongue swear loyalty. Before you let them humble themselves, and to your glorious name let them give honour. Let all submit to your sovereign rule. May that time come soon and last forever. For ultimate sovereignty is yours, and to all eternity will reign in glory, as it is written, the Eternal One shall reign forever.
As we worship before you, O God, we think of those who once shared with us the joys and burdens of life and who are no longer in our midst. The sorrow of bereavement is softened by the bond of love which continues to unite us with our dear ones, and by our cherished memories of them which we will always carry in our hearts. May all that was good in their lives remain with us as an influence for good. And we remember in this community, particularly on their yahrzeits, Martin Gelman, the father of Janine Spencer, Richard Groon, father of Jackie and Zoe Groon, Cyril Holt, the brother of Phyllis Sanderson and uncle of Stephen, Betty Kay, the mother of Anthony Kay, Alan Krimgoltz, the brother of Phyllis Sanderson. Is that right?
I don't think it is right, but never mind. You remember it again. Only one brother.
Yes.
But this was another brother, but that not this Shabbat, I don't think.
We still remember.
Yeah, we've seen that, yeah. Jack Rosen, the brother of Rhoda Conn, Philip Rothbart, husband of Mimi Rothbart, and Henry Solomon, the brother of Aubrey Scott. Are there any other names that anyone would like to mention? People that you're thinking of this Shabbat? O God, grant consolation to those who are in sorrow, and light to those in darkness. Teach us at all times to put our trust in you and to praise your name. As we say together on page 524. Please be seated. Announcements?
Shalom. First of all, I'd like to offer a massive thank you to Rachel for a very uplifting service.
Thank you.
Food for thought, and if anyone is in despair about recent political events, there's a little bit of hope for us and strength as we try to come to terms with what's going on. Just next Friday's service is actually going to be back here in our sanctuary. It's going to be a joint service with Reform. Now, Gwendolyn will be leading the service. She did last night, she did mention last time she led a service here, there was actually only Reformed congregants, which actually was quite a few, but if we are able to go, it would be nice if there was some liberal representation, if we can. The next Shabbat have Lev Taylor, student rabbi Lev Taylor, I should say, and he adds a sort of another dynamic to the service, and it'd be great if we could support him. Any other announcements?
Lev, of course, is John Rayner's grandson.
Is that?
Yeah,
I did not know that. So Lev Taylor,
John Rayner's grandson.
Yes.
Oh wow, I don't know
Yes,
something else.
I know, it's wonderful.
Well, there is one other thing. That is that, I believe I'm right to say, tomorrow, Sunday, is the memorial service for Rabbi Harry
It
Jackson,
is.
Oh right.
former rabbi of this one, of course, which is the LJS in St John's Wood, and I think 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, yes, he's right. Thank you for mentioning that, Alan. And also, can I add my huge thanks to Joseph and to Lobo for
Oh,
the
yes.
music, which is always completely beautiful here. Thank you. Thank you so much. In the middle of the service, when it rained, it was also
Yes.
sunny outside, so somewhere there must have been a rainbow. And of course, a rainbow also is a great symbol of hope for the future. So we need that. We need that at the moment. So I wanted to finish with a different song. It's called Olam Chesed Yibaneh, and it's a text from Psalm 89, verse 3. And it basically means Olam Chesed Yibaneh. It basically means that the world will be built on this wonderful Hebrew word Chesed, which is normally translated as loving kindness. So that's what we need to do. And let's just learn it just a little bit. So the main bit goes like this. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadai, yadai, yadai. Let's just sing that together. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadai. Tune, and the English, as you'll see, goes along with it. But let's start from the beginning now, shall we, Joseph and Robo?
Yibaneh,
final blessing. Adonai yishmor tzedcha uvoecha me'atah ad olam. May the eternal one guard our going out and our coming in now and always. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Eternal God, grant strength to your people. Eternal God, let all and all peoples with peace. Amen. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
I haven't checked, but I guess they're nearly looking at
Well, I've got the stick. I've got his better, but I've been told at the end of December, January, February,
oh, it's very active. All right.
and I don't have
They still keep yourself busy. But you've been
What is this?
this is all.
Third leg.
Yeah, she was wrestling with you. Yeah, we
And
kept
you win.
wrestling.
You win.
Well, no, I know one of them might definitely do this. The other one I didn't think was necessary, but maybe it was. Mum didn't say, and I spoke to Mum and said, who really said it? The answer, which uncle is it? She said, oh, Cyril. So the other one isn't there. No, she thinks
Yes, I've chosen this for various reasons.
she got it wrong.
And I'm enjoying it.
I thought that he's got
It's a
it
different
wrong.
kind of approach, much less. Just never spending time together. So do this now. That's my
Worse, as they say. I don't know. Is it? But yeah, I'll see what I can do. Because I've also got. I'm meeting a friend in London as well that evening. So if you do see it, it'll probably be only for a short period. So what I may do is it at Adrian's house, isn't it? Because I could then go on into London after. So I'll see if I can combine. Exactly. So I'll keep you posted on whether we can make it.
Yes, okay.
It's 5 text.
It is
Yeah, that's I spoke to Mark Phillips.
Oh, right.
Most of it's going to be about all the way to the meeting. It's not very much doing all the messy.
Yes. We want to change Oh, I didn't say that.
Many sentences. And the language. And the vocabulary.
Thank you so much. Oh, you're awesome.
7, 8, 4, 1, 3, 7.
Everybody involved doing that?
5, 4, 5, 8.
but I would probably love to go to music. And this synagogue,
Yeah, and honestly, I'm fine with any obviously it's not
You know
nice.
what? It makes such a difference.
And you know actually we've potentially been moving at some stage.
Yeah.
Samuel, yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know, so thank you. Oh my God, well I think it's miles away where you jump yeah. Well, Dan, we have to sell them. We're selling the place, so we have got much and drinking up. This is not a Jewish area. If you look around, apart from this young lady, there's not many youngsters here.
You might go out on that.
Compared with like you were a youngster. Right. Yeah, cool.
No, it's lovely to meet you. It was lovely.
Yeah. Yes, it's just it just makes sense. It's demographics basically.
do you know what I mean? There's more downstairs.
Yeah,
It's
so
like
I'll
that was
be-
the boom where it was like, we're talking about what you do this, but we weren't actually talking about like,
Jackie, this is
interview, so they must be
you know the grooms that you were now.
Yeah, I mean, like, they must take it seriously, right?
Sorry to change it, but they are waiting for us.
thank you very much.
Hi.
How are you?
That is absolutely like.
They tell it all. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go downstairs. Alice,
Did you?
lead the way, dear.
We're just talking.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just going to put myself.